Hello, Matt. It's really great to have you here, and I'm really glad that you found time to have this chat with me and with Polish community.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. It's always good to talk to every community in the game, and of course, the Polish community is very important for ESO. So it's my pleasure to be here.
Before we start the actual questions, for those who are maybe not following game development and all the backstage stuff that closely, if you could just tell a few words about your role with ESO and with ZenMax Online.
Of course, yeah, I'm the studio head or the studio director at ZeniMax Online. So I was the guy that Bethesda hired to start the studio to make Elder Scrolls Online back in 2007, long time ago. So I was the game director through much of Elder Scrolls Online's development and led the project. And now, since we have other things in the works at ZOS that we're not ready to talk about yet, I'm now the studio director, and of course, Rich Lambert and I work together very, very closely on ESO to make sure it continues to be the giant success that it is.
Wow, so that's actually exciting to hear that there will be new projects in the future. But as for now, maybe this is more of a matter for more like a private talk, which brings me to a thought that we actually met at Gamescom 3 years ago, but it feels like decades. But
Yeah, a lot's happened in those 2.5 years since we've seen each other.
yeah, but you did actually mention back there that you once visited Poland. If you could just bring the story for our viewers.
Yeah, sure. One of my good friends here in the United States is Polish, and he moved from Poland to America in like 1990, 1987, something like that. So I met him, and so we've been good friends. So I went over with him to Poland, late '90s. It was a long time ago now, but it was a lot of fun. We had, he had a car there. His family's still there, and so we drove around the country, and it was great. It was definitely a good time, especially then. I know it's changed a lot in the 25 years since I, or even more, 25, yeah, since I've been there. So, but it was a lot of fun. The people were great. I enjoyed every second of being there.
I hope that you haven't learned too many bad words in Polish. Uh,
I think I know how to say hello and thank you, and that's about
hello,
it.
hello would do.
Exactly. It's the same almost everywhere in Europe.
Yeah.
It's perfect.
Okay, so let's kick off with community questions because we had plenty of them, actually, more than 70 individual questions, and we needed to shrink down the list, obviously. So we have 15 questions prepared for you, which cover different matters about the background stuff, about the lore, about the world, about the features, basically covering every angle of ESO. And I will kick off with one of the questions that's the most common each Monday, each Tuesday, each time we announce the maintenance. Why the PC maintenance has to be at the same time for both regions? Because our players feel that for them it would be more comfortable to have their morning hours free to play, considering the time zones.
It's a good question. If for those that have played ESO for a long, long time, like back in 2014, we actually did have separate services for Europe and North America, but that didn't work out very well for other reasons. So we decided to just have one unified service. But and that's the reason why everything has to go down at the same time, is because we have one game that runs on two servers, and one in the U.S. and one in Poland. So they have to be in sync because there's a common account system that sits over top of it, and we have to take that down at the same time. Technically speaking, it's one service, and that's why both of them go down at the same time. And I'll just point out that no matter what time we take servers down, since so many people play ESO from all over the world, it's going to be inconvenient for someone somewhere. Like, we have lots of New Zealand, Australia, Asian players too, and so we have to be mindful of the entire world and all 24 time zones when we do this. And we know it's not a spectacular time to take the for Poland to take the servers down in the morning, but that's also almost prime time in California, which is also very important for us. So a lot of it's just there's not one perfect time, and so we've hit on the time that works the best for almost everyone, and that's why we did that. And so, of course, we try to make sure that when the downtimes are as short as possible, and we try to make sure that that it's only once a week or so. So, but that's why.
Yeah, it's a huge global game, and we all sail on the same ship.
Yeah.
So that's understandable, I think. This is a thing that interests many of the players after our bonding with Microsoft happened. If and how will this takeover of ZeniMax impact on ESO in the future?
So one of the reasons why Microsoft liked ZeniMax, Bethesda, and of course ZeniMax Online so much is because we have these service games like ESO that run and are very successful. So the last thing in the world they want to do is get in the way of the success that ESO is experiencing right now. So I don't foresee any change. As long as ESO is successful and we keep doing what we do and we do it very well, I think we'll see almost no change at all from the Microsoft acquisition.
And maybe, just maybe, because of the new possibilities that this merging, this partnership opens to us, do you think that it's ever possible to think about making crossplay available in ESO between all platforms, or maybe only between consoles?
Yeah, so crossplay is an interesting thing for us. So first, the reason, obviously, a lot of games do it now. But when we first launched ESO on consoles in 2015, it was forbidden to do crossplay. So we couldn't do it. So we didn't architect our system with the idea of crossplay in mind. And now it's 7-8 years later, and we have the problem that we have a thriving game with lots of guilds and characters and accounts that are very much segregated into the platform that they were created on. And so it's a huge technical challenge for us to add crossplay because players could have the same names across, or the same account name or the same guild name across different platforms, and it just gets to be a very large logistical problem. So I'm not going to say it's never going to happen, but it's much more complicated because we architected the game back when crossplay was not allowed.
Okay, so maybe taking a bit of a step backwards, there will surely be many players who will either switch to Xbox or buy another console, another gaming system, and they might want to take their ESO, their achievements, their characters with them. So do you think that it can be possible somewhere in the future to move ESO accounts to another platform, like complete account from one platform to another?
We don't have any plans to do that right now, mostly because we have no system built that allows that to happen, because the different instances of ESO, as you'll know from your question about server maintenance times, we do console server maintenance times different from PC because they are completely separate systems. And in many ways, the account system on Xbox and PlayStation, we don't have any control over that. So, that's given to us by the PlayStation and Xbox network. So sometimes we don't even have the information to be able to do that correctly. So it's complicated, and we don't have plans to do it right now. But I understand why players want it. I understand that. So again, it's an 8-year-old game. And we're kind of living with the limitations that were in place when we first started designing it.
Yeah, that's a good update, I think, and an update that will shed more light on the matter. This is a complicated matter, like whole game development is extremely complicated thing, but we are still pushing.
When we run on 7 platforms,
Yeah.
So with PC, Mac, Stadia, 4 different consoles now, like it's a big logistical puzzle every time we want to make changes.
But still, you are pushing towards making console players play more comfortable. Their quality of life improvements from last year were really a huge success, and the same with the enhanced edition. And because of that comes the next question. Because they want to have more of the features that PC players enjoy because of add-ons. And one of the most common questions is what do you think about adding an option to see with which recipes the character knows? This might be a simple question, but it's complicated for engaged players.
Yeah, so I think you asked the question the right way. We can't do add-ons the same way on console that we can do on PC, for the simple reason that you can break the client if you do an add-on incorrectly, and any add-on developer will tell you that. But now that isn't to say that some of the lessons that we learn from third-party add-ons that we think are pretty cool, we could actually put into the game, and we've done that a few times. There was one way back in the early days of ESO called Loot Drop that we thought was excellent, and we actually added that functionality into all the different clients. So we'll look at them, and if we like them enough, we will include them. I don't know about this particular one, of course, but I know that is something that we're always looking for.
Yeah, there's a really huge group of players playing ESO day by day, and many of them ask, will we have an option to have either 2-person or a flying mount in ESO? You saw that coming, I think.
Yeah, there's no flying mounts in ESO, and there never will be. We have played around with multi-person and 2-person mounts. We even, I think, had one on our playtest server a year or two ago. That ran into some issues that we didn't foresee, and I think it's back in the design team to figure out how to make it work. But 2-player mounts would be really cool. 4-player mounts would be cool too, so a group could get on one. But it's something that we've thought about, and we actually have tested it. It just wasn't super successful. So I don't know what the status of that is right now, but I know if we'll look at it.
Okay, so long story short, there is a no-go for flying mounts, but for 2 and more player mounts, there is a chance.
Yeah.
You've heard that. That's great to hear. So about progress players and about progress play, here's another thing that players mention, and another thing that they want to hear about. Once in ESO, we had 24 player groups. And then they were turned off, and players want to know if there is a chance of these 24 players group to ever come back.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I'm not going to promise that, but if you read my, it went out as a PvP update, but I made a post to the community in mid-January. It was just like 2 weeks ago. I don't know. Time is funny these days. In the last couple weeks, I posted a note to PvP players about Cyrodiil performance. But it's good to note that the change and the re-architecting of our server that we're undergoing because of that also affects performance all over the game. It's in a good way. It's not just Cyrodiil. It's everything should be snappier and better and more responsive. So when that happens, we can go back and revisit the 24 character groups. Again, no promises. We're not going to do it if it's bad for game performance, but it was a lot of fun. I understand. So we want to put it back in, and we will if we can.
Yeah, that's also great to hear. And about the level of challenge, our players like the challenge of ESO and the challenge of the most challenging trials they are. So there is the only question that touches a bit of the future. And about the future trials, how you will balance them in terms of difficulty. Do you think about making them even more difficult for the players that want to challenge?
Yeah, I mean, if you ask the trial and dungeon team, they're always looking for ways to make things more challenging. And trials and dungeons have gotten progressively more difficult, or with the hard mode, get progressively more difficult over the years that ESO has been around. But I'll remind those players that ESO is a large virtual world with a lot of different players in it, and we can't make content just for the hardcore trial and dungeon people. Like, there are millions of people coming into ESO every year for the first time. and they need to be able to play dungeons and trials and have a good experience. And I understand if you've been playing the game forever, and have great equipment, and you have a team, a trial group that you know is going to be everyone is going to do the right thing at the right time. Then yeah, you want more challenge, and we'll do that. We'll continue to give those type of groups more challenge. But just remember that we also need to make sure that everyone in the game has a good experience too.
Yeah, and so now we will naturally move a bit back from challenge, progress, stuff like that, to these players that seek, first and foremost, for an adventure in ESO. So first question touches a bit of the enhanced console edition that was released last year and was a huge success, and players really loved that one. And because of that, do you maybe plan on updating some of the, let's call them, older areas of ESO, so they will match visual fidelity of the new ones? Because newer chapters are really, we all know they look great, and hence the question.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we've learned a lot over the years, and if you look at the jump in quality, in fidelity, in world building between the base game and Orsinium, you'll see that's where we made a big jump, and every zone after that has just gotten better and better. We have talked about going back and touching up some of the older zones, but we're never going to be able to do a huge rework, because that means we have to go back and change everything, monster spawners and quest locations and things. So we might someday go in, and we did this a little bit in the console enhanced version that came out last year for consoles. We up-resed a lot of textures between the base PlayStation and Xbox and the new, and so it looked better. It looks better on the new generation. We included some PC fix. Some of those we included in PC as well. We might, in a targeted fashion, just keep going back and maybe making ground clutter look better, or up-resing some textures here and there. But we can't really change cities and change lots of things, because then it becomes a huge endeavor, and we just don't have time for that. We like making new content, and we want to keep doing that too.
Okay, so maybe a bit from a different angle. How about adding new stories for existing regions, like, I don't know, Valenwood or High Rock or any other region that's a huge fan favorite? Have you ever thought about that this could be possible?
Add new what?
Add new stories, new quests, new
quests. Yeah. So yeah, we have done that in the past, like with Thieves Guild and Dark Brotherhood, and in some ways, Antiquities and systems like that take players back into the older zones, and sometimes when new players, they can play the chapters first, and sometimes that's the way they find out that the whole base game is there, and they get introduced to it. That being said, that's the way that we'll probably approach in the future, adding new content to the older zones, is through those horizontal systems that you can do on the side. Like, we have a lot of those systems now. Like, we have Fishing, Thieves Guild, Dark Brotherhood, Antiquities, Companions. All of those, the prologue quests for every chapter usually take place somewhere in the base game world. So those are the ways that we'll probably end up adding more content over time, is to add more systems like that take players around the world.
So the world, we all know, we all love to explore, we all love to take photos, to see how it looks, and to memorize the memories we take from this world. And here's the question that comes from players who love to doing just that. Will we ever have a photo mode for ESO?
That's something we've thought about a lot, and it is on our list of systems to explore. I would love to see something like that, because the internet is full of very good ESO screenshots, and they could be even better with a real photo mode. So I'm not going to promise that, but it is something that we thought would be cool, and if we have time to do it, we probably should.
Yeah, that's great to see. More cool screenshots incoming. And one last question about stories, because there is one certain mystery that players sometimes ask about. What happens to Cliviaton? Will you ever reveal that?
In every world, there has to be some mystery. right? So yeah, and this question is for those players who haven't played through White Gold Tower or any of the Imperial City and Cyrodiil content. The last emperor of the empire was Clivia Thorn, and we don't actually know what happened to her. So we might leave that a mystery, but who knows?
So you heard, even Matt doesn't know what happened to Clivia Thorn. We might learn that, or might not. Okay, so this is actually pretty much the end to my list. I have only one question left, which is pretty uncommon, but I think it might be pretty funny and pretty tasty for us to hear. So, can we get a recipe for lasagne bretonnaise?
That's funny. Yes, obviously the year coming up that we just announced is the legacy of the Bretons, and there's going to be a lot of Breton-focused content. That would be pretty cool. You know, there was an Elder Scrolls cookbook that came out three years ago or so that has a lot of tasty stuff in it, like sweet rolls and so forth. It would be very cool to do that. Maybe we'll see if we can put one together.
So we heard this, folks. If you have an idea to come up with a recipe for lasagne bretonnaise, post it to our socials. It might just happen.
That's a great idea, because I'm sure there are a lot of good cooks out there. It'd be interesting to see what they come up with.
Oh yes, that's true. That's true. We have plenty of good gaming cooks. Okay, so this is the end of my list. This is surely not the end of the questions that might come from our community. So I do hope there will be next Q&As, next opportunities to chat about ESO and to chat about the future. And I thank you for your time, and that we had the opportunity to share these questions with you.
Yeah, my pleasure. And hopefully next time we talk, it'll be in person, because we'll be able to travel.
Absolutely. And then you need to hop on our stream, and we can play together and chat together with players.
Be cool.
Absolutely. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.